Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today is Monday, April the 17th, and welcome to this, your weekly reading. I am in the process of moving. You'll notice a different background. You'll notice I actually look like I'm glowing blue. I don't know, maybe I became an alien halfway through my move. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the lighting is a little weird here. There's a wind chime outside my door that if the wind gusts, it's going to make some noise. Also, because I have my whole life currently packed up, I don't have any rocks, gems, or trinkets out right now in order to be able to do my usual reading. So instead, what I'm going to do today is just present 3 decks of cards to you. Intuitively, just tap in and decide which deck you are drawn towards. And that will be your reading this week. I hope that by next week, I will be a little bit more settled and at least have some rocks, gems, and trinkets out for next week's reading. For those of you who are new here and have no idea what I'm talking about rocks, gems, and trinkets, every week on Mondays, I jump online and I make a video wherein I ask you to go into a light meditative state. And then I present 3 rocks, gems, or trinkets, and I ask you to intuitively decide which one you are drawn towards. And then I do a mini reading from a deck of cards that has been aligned with the rock, gem, or trinket. And that gives you an idea of the dominant energies for this week, as well as some shadow energies. So, like I said, unfortunately, no rocks, gems, or trinkets this week, but that doesn't mean that we can't still dive in and have a look at the dominant energies this week. What do we have going on this week? We have an eclipse. That might make things a little bit exciting this week, right? Also, we are moving out of Aries season and into Taurus season this week. So happy birthday to the late Aries. Happy birthday to the early Taurans out there. And let's get started. If you wouldn't mind just getting comfortable for a moment, taking a couple of deep breaths, deep conscious breaths. Pay attention to the air coming into your lungs, into your body. When you release that air, relax. And when you inhale again, ensure that it is a slow, deep breath. Consciously inhale, pay attention to the changes in your physiology. And when you're ready, exhale with a sigh. Release all the distractions around you. Let them go. You can go back to them in just a moment. Inhale again. Nice deep breath in. Pay attention to the changes that are already happening in your body just by paying attention to one thing, and that's your breathing. And when you're ready, exhale and relax. Okay. If you've had your eyes closed, please open your eyes. And do not make your decision yet. I'm going to present 3 decks of cards to you, and only make your decision after all 3 decks have been presented. The first deck that I'm going to present to you today is the Angels and Ancestors cards by Kyle Gray. The second deck I'm going to present to you is the Osho Zen Tarot. And the third deck today is the Fairy Tarot. Again, the first deck, and feel free to make your decision now. First deck is the Angels and Ancestors by Kyle Gray. The second deck is the Osho Zen Tarot. And the third deck is the fairies. So please make your decision now. I will put timestamps down below in the description. Okay. For those of you who selected the angels and ancestors, let's get started and let's see what dominant energies are coming through for you this week. Dominant energies for the deck 1. Okay. Oops. All right. All right, we have 4 cards here that have jumped out for you. All 4 cards jumped out together. We'll read them in the order in which they came out. Your dominant energies this week. You have the Lady, growth and reap rewards. You have the Lord, take charge with authority. You have the Earth Guardian, asking you to stay rooted and grounded. And you have the Druid, asking you to hold space. Okay, let's dig a little bit deeper here. You have both the Lord and the Lady. Honestly, with this particular deck, I've been working with this deck for, probably 8 or 10 years now. And I have never, ever, ever had the Lord and the Lady come out together before. Ever. So that's fascinating to me. And to me, what this is indicating is that one of the dominant energies that may be coming in for you guys this week is some romance and some relationship, being the Lord and the Lady coming in together. Exciting for those of you who are single. I can tell you that I'm in the process right now of beginning the preparations and the meditations for the zodiac readings for the end of April and for the beginning of May. And yeah, the lovers are coming up again. I know that the lovers came up for some of the zodiac signs in the readings for April 30th or April 15th through the 30th. And the lovers are, they're pushing again. They're coming back out. So there's definitely love in the air and some changes with regards to relationships coming up. And this is an indication that the dominant energies this week definitely involve relationships. But in that, for the singles in particular, when we enter into a new relationship, the endorphins start flowing, the hormones flow, and sometimes we don't always stay grounded and we don't always make decisions that are grounded in reality. We get clouded by what's coming in for us. And I think that that's probably why the Earth Guardian has come in to remind you to make sure that the decisions that you are making, especially if you are making decisions regarding a relationship this week, and this goes for even the people who are in committed relationships. There's a lot of changes and shifts coming right now with regards to relationships. And so even those of you who are in committed relationships, these 2 cards can indicate that there's a change or a shift coming in your relationship. And this card is saying, hey, make sure that you're making your decisions from a place of being grounded, not from a place of woo woo and oh my goodness and oh, that was such a romantic thing that somebody did for me. And all of a sudden you get swept off your feet and you forget, about the reality and the grounding and paying the bills and those types of things. Now, the Lady represents growth and reaping rewards. This is an indication that one member of a relationship may be in a growth period, okay, where they may have discovered something new about themselves. They may be going through a career shift, which also causes growth on a psychological level, on an emotional level. And what I'm picking up is that there may be some resistance from a partner. For those of you who are in committed relationships, when one person grows in a committed relationship, now this is represented by a lady, this is represented by a male. This does not necessarily mean that the female is growing and the male is not, or anything else. This is about 2 people, gender neutral, Okay. For people who are currently in a relationship, what I'm picking up intuitively, psychically, these two cards are indicating a change or a shift as a direct result of one person in the relationship beginning to grow. Okay, making a shift, a psychological shift, a spiritual shift, a shift in emotional growth. And the other person is feeling either a little bit left behind. They're feeling like they might lose the person because they're developing spiritually and the other one isn't. And so there's some resistance coming up in the relationship. That is normal. And from that point of view, the other two cards come into play. And what the other two cards are saying is make sure you're making decisions. If it is a spiritual growth or an emotional growth or explosion that's happening. Now, this is quite common in and around eclipse season, where many, many people experience huge leaps and bounds in their spiritual and emotional growth. People who are not experiencing the same spiritual and emotional growth can feel like they're being left behind. Now, the person that's experiencing spiritual growth may be making decisions from out here. Okay. This card is saying, you got to make your decisions, stay grounded. Okay. And the other card that we have here is hold the space. This goes for everyone this week. Because of eclipse season, because there are many changes happening to many people, spiritual growth, emotional growth, psychological growth, job changes are happening, financial changes are happening. What we need to do is remember to hold the space for others. And this goes for male, female, men, women. It goes for the person who is growing and the person who feels like maybe they're being left behind. Honestly, you're probably not being left behind. And if anything, when people have these growth experiences, guess what usually happens? Relationships actually tend to get deeper. Okay. So just so you know, they change, the relationships change and the relationships shift. But usually there's a deeper connection that comes in after a change or a shift. Remember to hold the space for each other this week. Really, really important. Okay. Make your decisions from a place of being grounded and hold space for each other. Okay. Let's have a look at what card is on the bottom of the deck. This is the card that is going to tell us about shadow energies this week. Shadow energy, retreat and recharge. Okay. What these cards are telling me, the initial cards that I've pulled out for you, is that there's a change, a shift that's happening. It's going to be both on a conscious and unconscious level, but more so on a conscious level. And so the shadow is retreat and recharge. This is telling me that you may struggle with this retreat in order to be able to recharge, because this is active work. Relationships are active work. Changes and shifts in our being are active work. So your shadow is retreat and recharge. Does that mean that you cannot retreat or recharge this week? No, absolutely not. What it does mean is that you're probably going to struggle a little bit to find the time to do this work this week. That's saying that you need to do the work this week. You need to retreat and recharge, but it's going to take a little bit of extra effort to carve out that time this week. Okay. All right, moving along, we're going to move along to those of you who selected the Osho Zen Tarot. I do want to point out that you did have the King of Pentacles on the bottom. Initially, when you selected this represents abundance. So let's see if your dominant energies also look at abundance this week. Let's clear the deck. Dominant energies this week. What do we have coming up for an eclipse this week? Dominant energies. All right, we might have to go through the deck one more time. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to. All right. It's freezing cold. It was 30 degrees yesterday, and this morning our high is only 7, and I'm sitting in a screened-in deck. So everything's moving a little bit more slowly than it should. We do have a card that's looking like it wants to pop out there. Let's see whether it falls or not. Oh, there we go. Got one card and 2 cards. Oh, both major arcana. And oh, a 3rd major arcana card. Wow. You guys got some powerful energies coming up. I'm going to pull this one out just in case we need it. It was the one that was kind of hanging off the top there. Okay. So you have 3 major arcana cards that have come out for you. The first card that came out for you is integration. This is the card of karma. This is a card of, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This is the card of finding balance. You have the sun and the moon and the yin and the yang. You have the snake down at the bottom eating its own tail, telling us everything always comes full circle. You have an eagle over here representing power, and you have the swan over here representing peace. This is the card of opposites. What this card is telling me is that one of the dominant energies that's coming in for you this week is duality. And this is a card of making sure that if you have decisions to make this week, you're making those decisions from a place of examining both sides. Make sure you look at both sides of the coin before you make any decisions. Really, really important. Sorry, somebody else is they're coming in and trying to distract me, and I told them I was working. Okay. There was somewhere else I was going with this card. So this card is the card of duality. It's the card of examining both sides. That's where I was going with it. This week, as I've already mentioned, we have an eclipse and Mercury is retrograde. Do you think that might be a problem with regards to making decisions, signing contracts, negotiating things? Absolutely. The eclipse and Mercury retrograde throw huge, huge monkey wrenches into our plans. And so that's why this card is really important for you this week, to make sure that you're looking at both sides of absolutely everything. And as the yin and yang represents, things are not always black and white. You cannot have light without the darkness. You cannot have positivity without the negativity. You have to have balance. That's what the yin and yang represents. That's what the sun and the moon represents, the eagle and the swan, and the snake coming full circle. Okay. This is what's coming up for you this week as a dominant energy. Balance, integration. The next card that you have coming up is the card of your inner voice. Do you think it's important to listen to your inner voice this week, especially with eclipse and Mercury retrograde? And you also have the integration card? Absolutely. Really, really important for you to carve out time this week to be able to listen to your inner voice. This card is an interesting card because it does have the representation of water and the dolphins on it. I'm not sure if that's coming into focus for you. And you also have the representation here of a crescent moon on top of a goddess head. And what this is representing is your connection to the divine. Okay. The final card that you have here, I am actually going to read the 4th card that was kind of hanging on the edge here. I'm going to read it because I think it's important. The 3rd card that you have in the major arcana that came out as a dominant energy this week is the Rebel. This card is the equivalent to the Emperor in the traditional tarot. The Emperor is all about authority. Okay. Take charge with authority. Now, I am going to point out that you may want to watch the reading for the first deck of cards, which was the Angels and Ancestors. Why? I still have the card sitting out here. They have the card that is called the Lord card, Take Charge with Authority. This card came out for them. And from the Angels and Ancestors deck, this card is the equivalent to the Emperor card. And now you have the Rebel card, the equivalent to the Emperor card, coming out as well. This is a card of take charge with authority, while still taking into account and into consideration your inner voice and the yin and the yang and the karma that's coming up. Okay. What all of these cards are leading you to is a new beginning. This card was the card that was hanging off the side of the deck that almost fell out. I did decide to pull it out for you because I felt that it was important. Intuitively, I was drawn towards it. This is the Ace of Wands. This is the card of new beginnings with fire in mind, action in mind. It means that with these cards, when you finally make a decision this week, you need to take action on that decision with this card, with this Ace of Wands. There's no two ways about it. Consider both sides before making a decision. Tap into your inner voice before making a decision. Your decision may require you to be a little bit of a rebel. Okay. It may be a decision that might be unpopular with certain people. That's okay. So long as you're not being immoral. Okay. Once you make that decision with authority, and then move forward with this Ace of Wands. Your shadow this week, traveling. You have the 8 of Fire, 8 of Wands coming up. This is an indication that if you follow this guidance this week, there's a good possibility that you might find yourself traveling. Now, this card can represent both physical travel. There's a possibility that some of you may be looking to book a trip, and that's why you're being called upon to, consider both sides, who wants to go where, because most people don't travel alone. Okay, I do, but most people don't travel alone. They travel with other people. So you're going to have to take into account other people's thoughts and opinions about where they want to go. Tap into your own inner voice. Make sure that where you are deciding to go sits true in your heart. Okay, what's coming up for me big? This is coming up big. If you are making decisions about traveling this week, this is a shadow. This is indicating that decisions that you're going to make about travel may be tough decisions. You're going to have to weigh everybody's options. You're going to have to look at both sides. But ultimately, you have to make the decision based on your own inner voice. Because if you don't, this rebel's coming out. Okay. This could be the start of something really new and beautiful by you taking action and going towards this traveling. But again, this was your shadow this week. This is your shadow this week. So some of you may choose to go ahead and book some travel this week. Some of you may just be traveling in your minds this week and making a decision about some travel. But either way, with the eclipse and with Mercury retrograde, this coming up in shadows, this may be telling you, okay, explore all your options this week, but don't book it yet. That's why it's a shadow. Instead of being out here, it's the shadow. So it may be saying, hey, explore all your options about travel, but hold off on actually booking it for a few days. Not sure why, but that's just what's coming up. Ultimately, as I always say in my readings, the choice is yours. It is always yours. You have free will. You can change the outcome of this reading. You can change the outcome of any reading by taking action. All right, you have 2 cards here that are action cards, wands cards, but ultimately use your free will, make your decision. I can't make that decision for you. I can only read the cards for you. All right. And last but not least, let's move into the fairies. Those of you who selected the fairy tarot, yeah, we have a great big shadow on there and reflection. Those of you who chose the fairy tarot this week, let's have a look at your dominant energies. Fairy tarot, dominant energies. All right, we have 1 card out. All right, is that one coming out? No, it flipped back in. Oh, we do have another card out for dominant 3. How many are we going to get? We still have most of the deck to go through. Is there anything else in dominant energies this week? Yeah, I think we're done. Yeah, I'm being told we're done without even going through the rest of the deck. Okay, first card that came out for you is the Empress. This is the number 3 in the major arcana. And this is a card of being called to action. The Empress is extremely creative. Why is she creative? Why does she take action? Because she's extremely driven, because she wants a life of luxury. But the only way that she can get that life of luxury is through doing the work. How does she do the work? 7 of Spring, also known as the 7 of Wands. She needs to be assertive in what she is doing this week. Don't back down from what you believe. We have an eclipse this week. We have Mercury going retrograde, and don't back down. That's your message right now. You also have the King of Winter, also known as the King of Swords. Okay. Again, another authority figure coming out for you, but this particular one has a slightly different meaning. This card is a card of don't be afraid to ask for advice this week. Okay. So you've got 2 energies here that are saying be assertive, go out and get what you want, work towards what you want, take action. You have creativity on your side with this Empress here. Okay. But you also have this King here, and this King is experienced. And the one thing that I will say is that this is represented by feminine energy. This card is represented by feminine energy. Both of these being represented by feminine energy are about using that calmer demeanor. I mean, you can still be assertive while still being fair in what it is that you're deciding to do. You can still be gentle while still being assertive. You can imbue your decisions this week with the feminine attributes, okay, without being too emotional. Okay, because this masculine energy that's being brought in by the King of Winter is asking you not to get overly emotional with the decisions that you're making, with the actions that you're taking this week. Don't allow emotions, with this card, to cloud being assertive and going out and getting what you want. Okay. An example, going into a store and asking for a refund. Let's just take this hypothetically speaking. Going into a store, asking for a refund. You have a choice. You can go in and you can use some feminine energies, be really gentle, explain why you're returning the product because the product failed. The product wasn't exactly what you wanted. The zipper broke on it. And be kind and be gentle with the staff in the store and smile at them, charm them. Don't get emotional. Because if you go in, you can still be assertive and say, I want a refund, please. Without going, I need a refund and oh my God, this thing broke. Do you see the difference? Which one do you think is actually going to get you the results that you want? Probably being assertive while being gentle and smiling while not getting all emotional and bawling your eyes out or yelling at someone worse. Okay. The eclipse, Mercury retrograde, all those things, you're going to be tempted to become emotional. Don't allow it to happen. You can still be assertive. And at the same time, this card is also encouraging you to ask someone else for some advice with regards to whatever it is that you're doing. Now, I'm not saying you're all going to go out and return something to the store. I'm just using that as an example. But these are 2 cards of action with feminine attributes. And this is a card of don't allow your emotions to get the best of you this week. On the bottom of the deck, in your shadow position this week, you have the Dreamer. This is the 0 card up here in the major arcana. This corresponds to the Fool. Okay. This is your shadow energy this week. This is a card of embrace your true purpose. Maybe not. This is a card of begin a new adventure. Maybe not. So the Fool or the Dreamer it's the first card, right? And it's the card of what can I create today? Ooh, something new. Look, there's a whole new path in front of me and I can go out and create new things. Yes, you can. And in fact, you're being encouraged to do so with these cards. Go out and grab what it is you want, especially with the Empress. I mean, the Empress is all about taking action with creativity, but this is in your shadow. So what this is saying to me is that as much as you want to go out and create this new adventure, your timing might be a little bit off to be the Fool and to be the Dreamer. Okay. These cards here are more about making decisions within established realms, right? It's making decisions about not necessarily about starting a new project. And this card's indicating, yeah, it's not the right time to specifically start a new project right now. It's definitely a time to move forward within established realms, but maybe not start something 100% new right now. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for joining me here on this Monday. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Hopefully I'll have my rocks, gems, and trinkets back out. Thank you.